Our next speaker is one of the co-founders of the Mandura All-Stars. Super guy. Yeah, him and his wife are just incredible. I had the opportunity to spend some quality time with him last year, the end of last year. These folks are so gracious. I felt more comfortable in his home than I did in my mom's home. Okay, they just really just opened their home to my wife and myself and some other folks. So he's just a really great guy. Um, He's a, excuse me. Doc Fran is a retired dental specialist with over 35 years of success in relationship marketing. He's reached top ranks in 4 companies, built teams of hundreds of thousands of people during his career. He served on the Associate Advisory Board and Medical Advisory Board. In the industry, he's been a coach and a mentor and a $1 million plus earner in the industry. His wisdom far outpasses a lot of people I've talked to. In fact, he calls me the Wizard of Oz, but I call him the Wizard of Wise because he is just wise even beyond his years, which is kind of hard to do because he's kind of old. But no, I'm just I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He's an awesome guy. So what I want to do now is I want to introduce Doc Fran. He's going to continue the leadership series, and I believe the topic is the law of victory. So without any further ado, Doc Fran.
Well, thank you, Casper, for that wonderful introduction. And it's true, I am old. These 21 laws were handed down to me right after Moses got the 10 Commandments on
a tablet.
And I've transcribed them right off of the original stone tablet, so it's just awesome.
Cool.
But what great news! What great news about Europe, and I know all of us are waiting, quite expectantly for the reality of the European expansion to come home to roost. And so, well done, those of you that have held in and stayed the course with us and made the commitment and understood that great things sometimes takes more time than you expect. And I appreciate the indulgence that you guys granted me by letting me go away for a couple of weeks. And we're going to pick up tonight with Law 15 in the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and it's the law of victory. And the first slide, Casper, if you will. The law of victory has a subtitle, and that is Leaders Find a Way for the Team to Win. And, folks, have you ever thought about what separates the leaders that achieve victory from those that suffer defeat? What does it really take to be a winner as a leader? Personally, I think that victorious leaders share a common flaw in their character. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheekly because that flaw is an inability to accept defeat. Victorious leaders feel the alternative to winning is totally unacceptable, so they figure out what must be done to achieve victory for their teams, their company, and then they go after it with everything at their disposal. And guys, it's really the same basic law, regardless of whether you're talking about government leaders, sports leaders, or business leaders such as ourselves. To illustrate that point, I'd like you to consider the contrast between Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. Abraham Lincoln never forgot that the nation's victory was his highest priority, ahead of his pride, his reputation, his personal comfort, and personal agendas. He has surrounded himself with the best leaders possible. And that's called a clue, guys, so listen to that sentence. He surrounded himself with the best leaders possible. He empowered his leaders and his generals, and he was never afraid to give others the credit for the victories that the Union gained. Jefferson Davis, on the other hand, never seemed to make victory his priority. When he should have been thinking like a revolutionary, he worked and thought like a bureaucrat. when he should have been delegating authority and decision-making to his generals and leaders, the best in the land, by the way, he spent his time micromanaging them. And worst of all, he was more concerned about being right than with winning the war. What I described there was classic Davis violating the law of victory. And as a consequence, guys, his people and the South suffered a devastating defeat. Sorry to our Southern friends here. Next slide, please. Now, to those two leaders, victory was the only option. Nope, I'm sorry, I've lost my place here. Fortunately, for every one of us on the phone, we have created great world leaders dedicated to freedom. Where would we be without a Winston Churchill and an FDR, for instance? To those two leaders, victory was the only option. If they had accepted anything less, the world would be a very different place today, and I'm sure you would agree. Next slide. When the pressure is on, great leaders are at their best. Whatever is inside them comes to the surface and works for or against them. Nelson Mandela is another outstanding example. Nelson Mandela was elected president of South Africa. It was a huge victory for the people of that country, but it certainly was a long time coming. When we look at the fact that we've worked and waited and expected for a year for the triumph that Mandela is about to enjoy, it pales in comparison to Nelson Mandela's story. The road to his victory was paved with 27 years of Mandela's life spent in political prison. Along the way, he did whatever it took to bring his victory one step closer. Mandela describes himself as an ordinary man who had become a leader because of extraordinary circumstances. Personally, I believe that he is a leader made extraordinary because of the strength of his character and his dedication to the law of victory. Next slide, Kisper. Now, whether you're looking at a sports team, an army, a business, a nonprofit organization, or a government, victory is possible as long as you have the three basic components. Next slide. The first is unity of vision. Teams succeed only when the players have a unified vision. No matter how much talent or potential there is, a team doesn't win the championship if its players have different agendas. Next slide. It also takes diversity of skills. It almost goes without saying that the team needs diversity of skills to accomplish its goal. Can you imagine a whole hockey team of goalies or a football team of just quarterbacks? Obviously, it doesn't make sense. In the same way, organizations require diverse talents to succeed in the overall goal, with each person or each player taking responsibility and providing his part of the successful outcome. The next slide, please. And the final thing that you need is a leader dedicated to victory and raising players to their potential. Now, there's a very famous Notre Dame football coach named Lou Holtz. And Lou Holtz is quoted as saying, "You certainly have to have great athletes to win. I don't care who the coach is. You can't win without good athletes. But you certainly can lose with great athletes." This is where coaching makes the difference. In other words, you require the leadership necessary to achieve your victory. It takes a leader to make those things happen, and it takes a leader to provide the motivation, empowerment, and the direction required to win. So, folks, I want to leave you tonight with a question. What is your level of expectation when it comes to succeeding for your organization? What is your goal? What is the size of the company that you want to be the leader of? How dedicated are you to winning your game? Are you going to have this law of victory in your corner as you fight? Or when times get difficult, are you going to throw in the towel and slink away and look for something different? Your answer to that question may determine the success or failure of your organization as well as yourself as a leader. I appreciate it. I'm Dr. Fran. Next time we will be doing the law of the Big Mo. Casper, back to you.
Thank you, Doc Fran. I always appreciate you going through the leadership series. I always get a lot from this. You know, it's important for all of us, in my opinion, if you're going to build a large business, if you're going to stand or run, you really need to have a strong leadership foundation. So I think that's critical for your success in Mandura or any company that you work in. We have a couple questions out there, so I want to get to those for sure. But I want to open the line up to our leaders to see if they have anything they want to chime in on, or just comment on, or just say hello, or whatever they want to do.
Hey, Casper, it's Shelley. Can you hear me?
Hey, Shelley. It's a little low, so if you could speak up a little bit.
Okay, I'll try to talk louder. I just
Yes.
have another comment. Great training, and Doc Fran, glad that you're back.